Sea Waves by livinglittlelie. Read by My Lost and Found. Summary. Izuku loved the sea, and the secrets hidden in its waters. This fic is 2,000 words and 1 chapter, and this is recording 1 of 2 for the Voice Team 2024 two-timer challenge. So what that means for you, this is 1 of 2 versions of this fic that's coming out. As always, the link to this fic is in the description, and on with the story. Izuku loved the sea. There had always been something about the sea that drew him in and managed to take his breath away. For as long as he could remember, Izuku had been enamored with the crashing waves and the sea breeze, and he had done everything in his hand to spend as much time as possible near the sea. Izuku's home was relatively near the beach, so when it started to get warm, Izuku's mother would always take them there. Izuku would spend the whole day in the water, either swimming or just letting the soft waves of the afternoon soak his feet while he sat on the sand. Izuku loved the sea, and how refreshing it felt to dive into the fresh water when the sun was hitting strong. It was a feeling he missed dearly when autumn came, and he couldn't go to the beach anymore, and something he welcomed with a wide smile when the spring storms left to bring warmer weather. But as time went on, Izuku found another reason why he loved the sea so much. The sea was mysterious and hid so many wonders in its waters. By being nearby, Izuku had learned many things he'd never fathomed to learn, even things they thought were just myths. Izuku secured the grip on his backpack shoulder straps as he made his way to the beach. He noted with his usual sadness the trash littered on the sand, making up mountains of rubbish that hid the beautiful sea from sight. He wasn't sure why or when it happened, but little by little, his beach started filling up with rubbish until it was impossible to spend one's time in without fearing getting hurt. He had tried cleaning up the mess in his spare time, but the funny thing about dumping sites was that no matter how much someone tried to clear it out, litter seemed to multiply on itself. Izuku gave up on cleaning the mess after weeks and weeks of cleaning up restlessly just for the pile to grow the day after. It was a shame, to be honest. There was nothing Izuku wanted more than returning the clear beauty the beach once had. But there was only so much he could do by himself. Well, maybe if he spent his whole summer break doing it. With his current manpower, Izuku focused on keeping paths to the shore instead. They were hidden enough that people wouldn't pile trash on them, and clear enough to let him through. Keeping them clear were a small victory in his book. When Izuku got to the beach that day, he started walking on the sand towards the wall of trash, not bothering to take his shoes off. He leapt over a busted washing machine and moved a splintered door to the side, uncovering a path that led directly to the shore. He ran towards the waves, not minding if his red sneakers buried in the damp sand, and made his way to the small deck in the distance. It looked weathered and in a clear need of some repairs, but it was sturdy enough to support his weight, even if the boards creaked sometimes when he stepped on them. As long as he didn't fall in the water, Izuku was fine with creaky decks. Once he made it to the edge of the deck, he sat down and placed his backpack to the side. He started untying his red sneakers and taking them off, placing them beside his bag. His socks came out next, which Izuku placed inside his sneakers unceremoniously. Finally, Izuku dipped his feet in the sea, sighing in relief at the feeling of cool water curling around them. He kicked the water playfully, giggling softly at the splashing. The beach could be filthy, but the water had remained as clear and blue as he remembered from his childhood. Izuku took a deep breath and lied down, basking on the warmth of the sun coupled with the seawater's coolness. He closed his eyes and hummed, feeling his tense muscles finally relax. He missed this. Suddenly, something curled around Izuku's feet and tugged down, making the boy squeal in surprise. He shot up like a spring and looked down instinctively, trying to see what had caught his feet. When his eyes met Shouto's, Izuku sighed in relief, putting a hand on his chest to try and calm his racing heart. "Todoroki-kun! God, you scared me!" Shouto shrugged, although his shoulders were barely out of the water. "I've been calling your name for a while, but you didn't seem to hear me. I thought I could grab your attention like this." "I guess that's on me, then." Izuku grabbed his bag and put it aside, making room in the deck beside him. "Do you want to join me?" Shouto nodded. He placed his webbed hand on the edge of the deck and pushed his body up, splashing water everywhere as he got his body out of the water. The bright red and white scales of his tail glistened with the sunlight, and the boards of the deck creaked again when he sat down beside Izuku. Izuku couldn't help but follow the trails of the little water droplets running down Shouto's torso, suddenly mesmerized with the sight. Although his attention was soon diverted when the merman used his hand to comb his wet hair out of the way. Izuku snapped his head forward, tense. He had to get a grip on himself. "So!" Izuku exclaimed, a bit too loud for his liking. "How's your week been?" "Uneventful." Shouto leaned back and rested his weight on his hands, and started splashing the water with his tail. "I went to the academy as usual. They taught us how to fight with tridents, which was quite interesting, but nothing else happened. And at home, I tried to get away from Father's way as much as possible." Izuku winced. "Is he still mad about All Might getting the throne back?" "That's an understatement. He's furious that All Might snatched what Father considers his rightful place, even though All Might has been our king for centuries before he disappeared. I'm pretty sure Father's planning ways of getting the crown back as we speak." Shouto scoffed. "He can be so ridiculous sometimes." Izuku chuckled. "Well, you're not doing him any favors by the way you speak about him. He sounds like a real prick." "He is." Shouto glanced at Izuku. "But enough about that. I didn't come here to talk about him. Did you bring any spare clothes?" "Yeah, I have them in my backpack. Hey, stop!" Izuku immediately averted his gaze to look away from Shouto, shifting to his human form. The merman had the bad habit of changing without warning, not caring about what he called humans' lack of decency. That meant, more often than not, Izuku had to stop whatever he was doing and look away when Shouto decided to shift. Or if he was unlucky, or lucky, he managed to get a glimpse of a very human and very naked Shouto. Izuku almost buried his head inside his backpack to avoid looking at Shouto. He fished the towel out and the clothes he had brought for the merman and started taking them out of the bag, handing them blindly. He jumped when Shouto's fingers curled around his to get the clothes, and breathed in relief when he heard him stand up to get dressed. "Is it safe to look?" Izuku asked. "I think so." Shouto's eye roll was palpable in his flippant voice. "I don't get why you humans make such a big deal about nudity. Your species' customs are very weird." Izuku glanced over his bag's lapels to make sure he could look up, and got his head out of the bag once he checked that Shouto was at least wearing underwear. "Well, it's the same as your issue with touching ears." "Touching ears is a very intimate gesture for us." "Well, so is seeing each other naked." Shouto's head popped out of the t-shirt he was putting on and frowned in confusion. "But I've seen plenty of people naked at the beach before, and it didn't seem to bother anyone. What's the difference between them and me?" "They're wearing swimsuits, Todoroki-kun. Every time you shift, you're—" Izuku cleared his throat. "You're totally naked." "So it's fine to show almost all of your skin, but it's different if you're fully naked? That doesn't make any sense." Izuku simply shook his head with fondness and let the matter go with a smile. It wasn't the first time they had discussed that topic, and Izuku knew by experience that they wouldn't be able to reach an agreement. He still remembered how hard it had been to make Shouto understand why he couldn't march around butt naked the first time the merman had shifted. It had been even more complicated to convince him to put on some clothes. At this point, Izuku was pretty sure Shouto only put on clothes to humor him. Izuku waited patiently as Shouto finished changing, chuckling lightly when he saw the merman struggling with the pants. He handed Shouto a pair of shoes and waited patiently as Shouto tried to untangle the ties. After seeing the merman's frown deepen into a scowl, Izuku put his hands on Shouto's and silently guided his fingers until he could undo the knots. "Did you need help tying them after putting them on?" Izuku asked. "I'll manage," Shouto answered, with a hint of a pout. Izuku's lips quirked up and proceeded to put on his own socks and sneakers. He tied them slower than usual, not missing how Shouto's eyes were focused on Izuku's fingers. And once he finished, he stood up. "Ready?" "Yeah." Shouto stood up after him and clasped their hands together, linking his webless fingers with Izuku's. Izuku fought the blush trying to rise to his cheeks, reminding himself that it was another one of the merpeople's customs. Apparently, holding hands was a common thing around merpeople, or so Shouto said. Shouto's face seemed to relax when Izuku squeezed his hand, and they started walking to the shore. "So, do you have something in mind for today?" Izuku asked. Shouto mused pensive. "I'd like to have another one of those ice cream treats. Which flavor was the one you had last time I came? Chocolate?" "It was chocolate chip cookie flavored, but isn't it a bit too cold to have ice cream right now? I don't want you catching a cold." Izuku put his free hand on his mouth, deep in thought. "Actually, do merpeople catch colds? How do you sneeze underwater?" "We do sneeze, but I don't know what catching a cold is. Is that another one of your illnesses?" Izuku nodded. "Yeah, when you have a cold, your head and throat hurts, and your nose is really runny. Sometimes you can even get a fever." Shouto hummed. "We have something similar, I guess. Anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine. I feel plenty warm wearing these clothes already." "Are you sure?" "Yeah." Izuku sighed, giving up. "Well then, let's go get some ice cream." Shouto and Izuku make their way out of the beach slowly. Izuku showed the disguised merman the way around the pile of trash, his constant babble taking Shouto's mind out of the beach's deplorable state. Izuku knew Shouto hated, even more than him, how dirty the beach was, so Izuku always tried to distract the merman as much he could. He just needed to wait until his summer break. Then he would be able to tidy the place up. And who knew? Maybe he could get his friends from school to help him. Ida's sense of righteousness would probably make him join Izuku instantly, and Ochako was way stronger than she looked. He was sure they could get rid of most of it if they worked together. Izuku tightened his grip on Shouto's hand and helped him up off the busted washing machine, reaching the other side of the trash wall. The sea was almost out of sight, but they could still hear the crashing of the waves. Shouto turned to look at the scenery, but Izuku tugged his arm. "Let's go, Todoroki-kun." Shouto nodded and followed Izuku out of the beach. They only had until twilight to spend together, and Izuku was ready to make Shouto enjoy their time together as much as possible. Izuku's mind was set on making him temporarily forget about his father, about the beach, about everything but them. That afternoon, they were just Shouto and Izuku was going to make sure they spent a great time together. And that's it for this recording of Sea Waves. Okay. I love how fluffy this fic is. Generally, I'm not like a big fan of, not fan, but I don't tend to read like purely fluff fics. They're great as like parts of like long fics, but they don't tend to be what I like search out. This, I just love it. It's so relaxing. It's so nice, and it's just great. But yeah, if you liked this recording, then maybe go check out the other one. I technically did it first, even though it's like the second one I was planning on doing. It was just last night I Well, I dyed my hair, like the tips of it. The first time I ever dyed my hair. It's like a wine red. It's lovely. I love it. It's so great. But anyway, it took an hour for the shower water to stop being pink. So by the time I actually sat down to record, it was very late. So I decided to record the quieter version of this fic first. And I'm recording this one at like 8 o'clock. It's great. It's not too late now, so this is actually the earliest I'm recording in a long while. But anyway, I love this fic. I hope you guys love this fic. And I will see you guys next time.